Beneath the
Okay.
hectic streets of Los Angeles, in the center of the bustling film industry, are dozens of worn down, abandoned tunnels. The whispers of a bygone era lie within their walls, now
What the
dormant
fuck?
and shrouded in darkness. More than just passageways, these tunnels are reminders of a revolutionary era in Los Angeles history, the early days of the automobile.
The
And
angel
in a way,
flight
these tunnels
used to be
represent the
tunnels.
car industry's effect on everyday life, our loss of public space, and the end of autonomy for not just children, but all pedestrians. Today we discover LA's forgotten pedestrian tunnels. I'm your host Ryan Sokash, and you're watching It's History. The creation of LA's pedestrian tunnels ties directly to the introduction of the automobile. Today, cars are as common as ever in Los Angeles and the US as a whole. But that wasn't always the case. At the turn of the century, automobiles were viewed more as toys. Curiosities for the wealthy, the only
Toys.
class that could afford them. This changed when cars became cheaper and more affordable to lower classes, thanks to Henry Ford's developments in car manufacturing. Now everyone was driving, and they were driving fast. One of the main appeals of the automobile was its speed compared to other vehicles. And apparently, back then, the type of bro science philosophy around cars
It's so crazy how everyone's forced to drive. Kind of wild.
was, why would you buy a car if you couldn't drive it fast? The notion was perhaps only enhanced when early automakers and car clubs used their pull to pave more roads for those fast drivers. People sped through the streets, which were at the time lively public spaces, teeming with people who were walking, biking, taking public transit, as well as children playing in the street. As a result, car crashes were common, claiming the lives of pedestrians and drivers alike. Tens
Fuck.
of thousands of people died every year, and horrifically, most of them were children. It was a
Wow.
national crisis. By the 1920s, the crisis of traffic violence was well known and heavily associated with cars. The public image of automobiles and drivers was worse than ever. The fault for car deaths overwhelmingly went to drivers since they were piloting these new and dangerous machines. And the
Oh
media only
shit.
propelled this narrative when newspapers reported on the high rates of killings and depicted drivers as the Grim Reaper on wheels in
Great
political
Gatsby
cartoons.
type shit.
Protests were organized by mothers who called for safer pedestrian access, slower moving vehicles, and child safety. In other words, this was becoming a hot, contentious topic. Car deaths were even featured in works like The Great Gatsby. Of course, those
Just said it.
responsible, rather than showing concern for the thousands of people dying every year, the automakers and interest groups were much more worried about selling their product. They got to work on strategic policies, speaking points, and plans to improve public relations. And from there, things got a bit ridiculous, as organizations like the Automobile Club of Southern California took advantage of their influence over political leaders to create
Uh,
preferential traffic laws and coordinated national.
they saw it, bro. They took their shot to implement it into society. Be like, all right, make this mandatory.
Over political leaders. And from there, things got a bit ridiculous, as organizations like the Automobile Club of Southern
Everyone likes to think that today, these companies are out of hand, are so greedy, out of hand. But it's like, bro, they're playing the same plays hundreds of years ago, used hundreds of years ago, hundreds, 100 years ago, used 100. By now, 100 for sure. What the fuck? This was like in the 20s and shit. Yeah, 20s, 30s. Like they're still using the same tactic. Like it just goes to show you money, cream, cash rules every. We're gonna listen to that song after this. Bastard. Cream, cash rules everything around me. And yeah, you could say it's companies, corporations. You could say that it's capitalism. Get into all kinds of stupid shit. At the end of the day, the core reason for it is money. They saw the bag and they saw how much they could regulate it, how much they could put the pressure on the politicians to pass the bills, legislations, laws, shit that's happening today, shit that was always happening. It's just that when times get bad, when the people, the citizens, the civilians start to really, 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 really notice it, is when people start thinking that it's a new problem. When the problem was always there. It's always been a system. It's a system that's been around for 100, for sure, 50 plus years, 100 years. It lasted only 100 years. Cause it's going to shit right now. Like people are waking up. People are waking up. People are waking up to this shit. Fuck. When rich, these are rich people, by the way. These are the wealthy people. People who run these corporations, they're wealthy people. They're the owners, CEOs. Not even the CEOs, the owners, creators, the founders. These are families. These are wealthy families. This shit's insane. It's it's kings, empires. It's it's the same thing. Governments are empires. An empire is everything, they control money, currency. That's an empire. That shit's crazy. They went from empires, kingdoms. Now we got governments. It's the same shit. Just different times, different language, new lingo, new terminology, new technology. It's become so advanced. Bro, the problem is like 100 years deep, even deeper, man. Let me think if I can think of another example of corporations having a choke on the government, an influence, a choke, because of money, of course, and of course, public. I mean, these freaking companies, corporations, from the motor to all kinds. You can think of all kinds, right? You know, they invest in advertisement, in media. They have such a grip on media and advertising with advertisement. They have such a grip on the media, and what the media buys is influenced by to buy. These corporations are not just influencing the politicians with money, they're influencing media. People think it's politics. Nah, it's money, it's wealth, it's companies, it's corporations, it's billionaire families, individuals, you name it. People who create companies. This shit's crazy. These are the people influencing the world through technology, through the products they produce, they sell. They offer money to politicians to pass laws, legislations, to make it easier for them to sell things at a cheaper price with cheaper material that might not be the best. You name it. And then they pay media companies to turn the cheek to what they're putting in your products, your food, you name it. And then they pay these media companies to just distract us. They put advertisement like crazy, advertisement money. That's for a lot of these politicians, these celebrities, these movies, television. It's where they make their money, advertisement, ads, actors, you name it. Shit is deep. Shit is deep.
From there, things got a bit ridiculous as organizations like the Automobile Club of Southern California took advantage of their influence over political leaders to create preferential traffic laws in a coordinated national effort to
I'm pretty sure the people part of these clubs are people who own and make automobiles, who own companies and shit like that.
shift blame over car crashes from drivers to pedestrians. One of these laws criminalized a new term auto groups created known as jaywalking. The name comes from a bit of Midwestern slang where the name Jay represents an
This is like cigarettes too. Being promoted by doctors back in the day. It's the same type of shit. Am I wrong? They used to get meth and shit too. Meth and shit. Methamphetamine. Shit's crazy, bro. The things people will turn the other cheek for the bag, you know? Fucking
empty
insane.
headed idiot from the country. And although this type of phrasing was unpolite, it's
So that started as a way to allow drivers to kind of keep driving fast, you know? Oh, you can drive fast, keep buying cars. You can keep driving your fast cars. Just, people can't jaywalk anymore. People can't just cross the street anymore like that. But of course, there's gonna be some lights for them to walk, you know? We gotta make it fair. You guys can drive fast until you hit those lights. And that's how they bamboozle them, and then, you know, everyone just gets into the.
nothing new. This is how politicians have always stick
Oh, it's okay. We got limits to the miles you could drive now, but it's all right now. We got better models out. We got the tracks you can go to. We're getting better. Just wait.
stigmatized ideas that they wanted to change. They need a scapegoat. They need to demonize someone. Anyhow, this term has existed as a way to shame people from being hit, not the drivers that struck them. The Automobile Club of Southern California even had their own no jaywalking signs on public streets. Laws like these became commonplace thanks to their groundbreaking in Los Angeles, but then a man named Miller McClintock played a crucial role in shaping those that followed. He did so by partnering with automaker Studebaker to draft a new state legislation. From there, these laws spread out to every U.S. city, marking LA as the foundation for modern traffic law. Before
And fucking LA has one of the worst traffic. It has horrible traffic. I went there with my brother. Fucking horrible. We got lost trying to go home. And in the sketchiest area. Fucking crazy.
Before the 1920s, it was generally agreed upon that speed kills, and the best way to prevent traffic deaths was by slowing down cars. But auto groups knew it was bad for cars to lose their competitive edge, and it didn't take long. With their public relations campaign, the press improved for the automobile, but it didn't change reality. People were still dying on the streets of LA. They were faced with a choice: inconvenience drivers to save pedestrians, or restrict pedestrians to convenience drivers. Auto groups decided to have it both ways. Their solution was a series of tunnels dug out underneath streets, allowing cars to travel at full speed right over crossing pedestrians. This was especially significant for schools, where large numbers of children crossed streets on a daily basis. But it needs to be emphasized that this solution was only a separation of cars and pedestrians, effectively banishing people from the public spaces that they once had.
This week, we're hosting a free trading and investing workshop right here in Irvine. Inside this workshop, you'll learn that you don't need to be a Wall Street.
Look around Los
It makes much sense why. Like in the old cartoons I'd watch. Or like even old TV shows, but like old cartoons. Like from the 50s and 40s. Like the streets look dead as fuck and empty. And he's just explaining why, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Angeles, and you
People
might
weren't.
notice the remnants of these early pedestrian tunnels. During the 1920s and 30s, over 200 of these underground crossings were built. Most tunnels made in these times were built with over $1 million in bonds approved by Los Angeles voters. The first experimental pedestrian tunnel was built in 1924 under Sunset Boulevard, right next to Mitchell Traina Street Elementary. Recognizing the dangerous conditions created by cars, parents and school officials pushed for the construction of these tunnels to protect children as they traveled to and from school. The tunnel is 75 feet long and 8 feet wide and built at the cost of $10,400. The automotive industry played a significant role in the development of these pedestrian tunnels thanks to a 1925 bond measure that provided a sizable amount of funding for their construction. The measure provided $350,000, or about $5.78 million in today's money, to support the construction of a network of tunnels. This project was aggressively led by auto interest groups, most notably the Automobile Club of Southern
Are they laundering motherfucking money or some shit like that?
California. Miller McClintock saw the process of selecting tunnel sites funded by voters in 1925. That same year, the city officials approved
They're siphoning into tax money.
46
that
more
it?
tunnel sites near schools. And in the years that followed, the New Deal federal funding made it possible to build even more. A tunnel in Eagle Rock was built in March of 1932 under Colorado
Joe's.
Boulevard at Floriston
Oh, this
and
is
was
recent,
constructed
never
to provide safer access to Dahlia Heights Elementary School. The Poppy Peak pedestrian tunnel was constructed underneath Figueroa Street to provide
Just one street? One tunnel for one street. One tunnel for one street. $10,000 they said, or a million they said? Equivalent to $1 million? For a tunnel like that? Nah, that's typical California shit. Nah, that's like no fucking way. Maybe a tunnel's complicated under the street, yeah. That's only like 100 grand. Come on, get the fuck out of here.
provide safer access to Annandale Elementary and
Not like a quarter million, half a mil.
Optimus Hyde.
Ain't no
But not
way.
every tunnel was designed with children in mind. Cars were deadly for everyone, so some tunnels were built for anyone to use. For example, the Pacific Coast Highway pedestrian tunnel was built beneath the Pacific Coast Highway in 1934 to provide access from the Pacific Palisades residential area to Will Rogers Beach. The street entrance is characterized by an ornamental iron railing completed with concrete stairs and a landscaped area. Pedestrian tunnels were viewed as an expensive but very effective way of limiting the dangers of crossing the street, but they were also a physical sign of the fact that public authorities weren't going to fight for public space, that the streets now belonged to the cars, and that pedestrians, especially children, didn't belong on the streets. And even with the tunnels built, the education process had to continue. This was seen in the curriculums that auto group club representatives presented at schools in order to get children to use the new tunnels. The curriculum had messages like, quote, "Streets are for cars, so stay out of them." By the late 1920s, every school in America received a free safety curriculum from the American Automobile Association. This is a far cry from the culture of the past when children walked and rode their bikes everywhere. But
Yeah, like Gangs of New York type of shit.
the dangers of cars are too prevalent to allow any child to walk along the street without risking a fatal crash. Once children were programmed to use the tunnels and encouraged to do so, traffic injuries among children decreased. Auto groups won, and the children, for the sake of their own safety, were exiled from the streets. Pedestrian tunnels were liked by the public and used for decades after their creation, providing safe passage throughout the city. But this tentative peace between man and car didn't last forever. These tunnels were expensive to make and needed constant maintenance. Construction and excavation were large financial and resource commitments to ensure there was proper drainage, lighting, and ventilation. Maintenance was necessary to keep the tunnels in good shape, but all the city's money was headed towards cars, which needed endless highway expansion. And in turn, political groups, as supported and lobbied by the auto groups, prioritized those needs. Constant foot traffic through the tunnels led to the permeation of dirt and grime, especially as vandals moved into them. Some tunnels required cleaning twice a day and would be rancid within an hour of the crews leaving. So it's no surprise that the pedestrian tunnels fell into disrepair, becoming dim, dangerous, and full of criminal activity. Weak fluorescent lights hum for 24 hours a day, barely illuminating the tunnels with bends, curves, and blind spots where anybody could be hiding. These areas become vulnerable places that no pedestrian wants to enter, especially for children, who these tunnels were originally intended to protect. Unfortunately, it wasn't uncommon for people to encounter human leavings, used needles, and pornographic materials plastered on the walls while traveling through a tunnel. As conditions worsened, several communities petitioned against the city, raising safety concerns and calling for the tunnels to be closed. Closing a tunnel is also expensive, costing around $13,000. Sealing the chain-linked fence around each end. Then there's the more expensive option, to fill the tunnel entirely with concrete, which reaches costs of up to $48,000 per closed tunnel. Every time the city wants to close a tunnel, they need to dip into an annual $300,000 bridge and tunnel maintenance account to seal them. With money still limited and the city not prioritizing the tunnels, few are closed in any given year. Since their creation in the 1920s, half of all pedestrian tunnels in LA have been sealed off. 20 of them are filled with concrete. This includes the first experimental tunnel by the Michitrina Street Elementary School, tunnel by Van Ness Elementary, and a pedestrian tunnel near Fletcher Drive Elementary, where apparently the homeless would sleep, scaring off school children on their way to school.
Same old phone? Nah. Upgrade to the new Galaxy Z Fold 7.
I want one of those. Those are badass.
The city plans to close even more tunnels in northeast Los Angeles, under Fletcher Drive, Figueroa Street, and Glendale Boulevard, but
Crazy.